Hello, Christmas is almost here, so you know what that means. You better watch out for ghosts. Really, one of the most loved Christmas stories has four of them. I'm Miss Melissa at the Oosterhout Free Library with First Page Fridays and a look at A Christmas Carol. Charles Dickens wrote it for adults, but there are versions for all ages. You've probably heard of some of them. There's a very popular movie by the Muppets, a classic Mickey Mouse cartoon, a Barbie cartoon, and many books, including copies on our shelves. It's the story of a rich man who refused to help anyone and lets his love of money ruin his life. The ghosts are there to teach him a lesson. And the author, Dickens, an Englishman, wrote it to teach the rich a lesson in 1843, a time of great poverty and inequality. This version of the first page is one he edited down to be read out loud. He did that a lot in front of big audiences. He even toured the United States. I got it from a website called the Charles Dickens page, then shortened it a little bit myself. Remember, this was written a long time ago, so some of the language is very old-fashioned, including some legal terms that just basically mean Scrooge and Marley only really had each other in their lives. Old Marley was as dead as a doornail. Scrooge knew he was dead? Of course he did. How could it be otherwise? Scrooge and he were partners for I don't know how many years. Scrooge was his sole executor, his sole administrator, his sole assign, his sole residuary legatee, his sole friend, his sole mourner. Scrooge never painted out old Marley's name, however. There it yet stood years afterward above the warehouse door, Scrooge and Marley. The firm was known as Scrooge and Marley. Sometimes people new to the business called Scrooge, and sometimes Marley. He answered to both names. It was all the same to him. Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, was Scrooge. A squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. External heat and cold had little influence on him. No warmth could warm, no cold could chill him. No wind that blew was bitterer than he. Nobody ever stopped him on the street to say with gladsome looks, "My dear Scrooge, how are you? When will you come to see me?" No beggars implored him to bestow a trifle. No children asked him what was o'clock. No man or woman ever once in all his life inquired the way to such and such a place of Scrooge. But what did Scrooge care? It was the very thing he liked, to edge his way along the crowded paths of life, warning all human sympathy to keep its distance, was what knowing ones called nuts to Scrooge. Once upon a time, of all the good days of the year, upon a Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting-house. It was cold, bleak, biting, foggy weather, and the city clocks had only just gone 3, but it was quite dark already. The door to Scrooge's counting-house was open, that he might keep his eye upon his clerk, who, in a dismal little cell beyond, a sort of tank, was copying letters. Scrooge had a very small fire, but the clerk's fire was so very much smaller that it looked like one coal. But he couldn't replenish it, for Scrooge kept the coal box in his own room, and so surely as the clerk came in with a shovel, the master predicted that it would be necessary for them to part. Wherefore the clerk put on his white comforter and tried to warm himself at his candle, in which effort, not being a man of strong imagination, he failed. "A Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you!" cried a cheerful voice. It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew, who came upon him so quickly that this was the first intimation Scrooge had of his approach. "Bah!" said Scrooge. "Humbug!" A lot of our ideas about Christmas come from Dickens. In the description box, there's a link to a page with a lot of cool facts about Dickens and the Christmas Carol. Here at the Oosterhout, we have a great magic treehouse book in which Dickens is a character. It's called A Ghost Tale for Christmas Time. We also have a book called Bah Humbug, a magical retelling of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Come check them out at the Hoosier Free Library. Happy holidays.